Boston in December was quiet like a pane of glass filmed with frost. Along Beacon Hill, warm yellow lights hung low before old wooden porches, and out on Boston Common, the laughter of couples skating at Frog Pond murmured like a lullaby broken into pieces by the cold wind. But on a high floor of a glass building on Boylston Street, where the elevator opened to a black stone floor, there was no scent of cinnamon, no wreaths, only the ticking of a second hand. The office of Reed & Orion, the fintech company famed for speed over sentiment, that night held only the flicker of monitors and the silhouette of a man sitting straight as a ruled line. Michael Reed, 32, navy suit, buttoned tight, the face of someone who refused ambiguity. People called him a master forecaster, a CEO who cut through variables with a cold edge. No one called him warm. He was about to shut down when the intercom crackled softly. Mr. Reed, Comm sent up some envelopes for the Letters to CEO Santa program. Employees and their kids wrote for fun, for the year-end party. He lifted a corner of his mouth. He wouldn't attend the party. A few minutes later, the young assistant hustled in with a bundle of envelopes tied in silver ribbon. Michael set the stack aside, but on top was a pink paper envelope, covered with glitter stickers, the handwriting wobbling as if it were skating. Curiosity, the eternal enemy of people who like control, opened a small crack. He opened the letter. Dear CEO Santa, we are June, Joy, and Jade. We are 6. We are triplet sisters. Mom says Santa is real even when we can't see him. But maybe Santa forgets her every Christmas. Mom is very good, works a lot, sings to us even when she's tired, and gives her soup away when others are hungry. This year, we don't want toys. We just want a new blanket for Mom because the old one has holes. And, if possible, someone to tell her a story on Christmas Eve. She tells us stories every night, but no one tells her any. Signed, June, Joy, Jade. At the bottom were glittery snowflakes and a small line. Our mom's name is Grace Ellis. Michael's hand stopped. Grace. The name raised up a corridor that smelled of bleach, misted windows, the old reading room of a former shelter. A honey blonde girl once sat close to him and read fairy tales in a husky, warm voice. The only person who knew how to pull him out of stone-cold silence. She had promised, under the patter of rain on a tin roof, if one day you get out of here, come back. I'll still be here to keep telling the story. He left and never came back. Until now, Michael stood. Below, the city shone like a star map, but he no longer looked. In his breast pocket, the pink envelope nudged like a small beating heart. The next day, Boston felt tighter with last-minute shoppers. Fine snow fell in threads, settling on the knitted caps of elderly ladies along Charles Street. Michael didn't sit in the usual glossy black SUV. He told the driver to stop at the head of a row of red brick houses and walked. The address scrawled in purple crayon in the corner of the letter. A string of numbers smudged by a snowflake sticker led him to a neighborhood where sidewalks cracked and window glass was papered against drafts. The cafe was wedged between a laundromat and a closing bookshop with a liquidation sign. A hand-painted wooden sign hung above, faded, Maple and Finch. The glass was fogged with breath. Inside, Edison bulbs poured honeyed light. Orange peel and cinnamon mingled with fresh roast. The bell chimed when he stepped in. Behind the counter, a woman in a simple sweater, hair pinned hastily with a few stray wisps at her temples. Her movements flowed, poor white, smile. Her stance was tired yet steady. When she turned, his heart dropped a beat. Those eyes, those lines, only now softened by time. Grace. She didn't recognize him. She was leaning to say something to an old man, then glanced around. In the far corner, 3 little girls were curled on a bench under a blanket, in pink knit dresses with coats folded neatly beside them. One sucked her thumb, one clutched a picture book, the other half peered out before drifting off. June, Joy, Jade. He guessed right. The espresso machine hummed. Tiny lights blinked along the brick wall. Michael stood still, afraid to shatter a moment thin as glass. Grace looked up. Her gaze slid over the dark overcoat, hard jaw, deep eyes. She merely thought he was a stranger stopping for coffee on his way somewhere more important. He lowered his eyes, stepped back from the counter without ordering, and turned to the door. On the awning, the snow had thickened. Wind swirled flakes up under the street lamp. In the fogged pane, he saw her tuck the blanket higher and kiss a little forehead, her face loosening into a brief, quiet peace. People said those PR letters were a trinket from marketing. But this letter was a path through snowy woods back to an old day. The girl back then had lit him a lamp. It was his turn to return that light, even if only a small warmth on the year's last night. The next morning, on the frayed doormat of Grace's brick-walled apartment, there was a brown paper box tied with a red ribbon. No name, only a pale lavender card tucked under the bow. Because storytellers need someone to tell them a story too. Grace blinked in wonder and opened it. On top lay a thick knitted blanket in cream, the corner embroidered in pale gold thread with 3 names: June, Joy, Jade. Beneath was a tin of gingerbread stars and cinnamon twists, fragrant like a childhood kitchen, the kind she hadn't had time to bake in recent winters. And a large hardback, a Winter Tales collection, with classic illustrations, the spine old but clean. A ribbon marked the middle. A slip of purple ink handwriting fell out. Mom deserves to smile. Mommy! June ran barefoot over the wood floor, socks drooping. Joy and Jade clung close, eyes bright. Is Santa real after all? Grace didn't answer at once. She watched her children roll themselves in the new blanket, a silent firework blooming in a cramped room. The tin clicked open. The butter sugar scent woke memories. She brushed the book's spine. The familiar feel brought her back to the old reading room, where she read aloud to a thin boy curled up, quiet eyes listening hard. She glanced at the slim stack of letters her girls had written to CEO Santa after a coworker told them the story. She had humored them, treated it like a gentle joke. Now, someone was truly listening. She folded the card, her fingers trembling a little, warmth mixed with unease. The feeling of being seen after a long time spent only seeing others. 2 days later, Maple and Finch was busier than usual. Snow clung to the glass and watercolor patches. The bell rang. A man entered. No suit, just a heavy overcoat, wool scarf, and a red badge on his chest. Volunteer, holiday story reader. He set a small box of supplies on the counter, his voice low and calm. I heard you're short a reader this week. If it helps, I'd like to pitch in. Grace was still flustered when 3 silver bell voices chimed. It's him, the man from the story night. His eyes looked like Santa's. Jade tugged his sleeve, tilted her head to assess. Are you a helper elf? He squatted to eye level. Do I look like one? Jade cocked her head. Sort of, but too tall and not enough glitter. Behind them, Grace stepped forward, dishcloth still in hand. His eyes met hers, hesitant, gentle, as if afraid to startle something fragile. Then, very softly, he said, You once promised to read me fairy tales every Christmas. Do you remember? His name flared in her memory like a match struck in the dark. Michael, read. The cafe emptied as evening deepened. Snow thickened. Streetlights laid tangerine halos on the wet pavement. At a small table near the bookshelf, Michael and Grace sat across from each other, an old teapot between them and 2 mismatched mugs. The silence had lost its awkwardness. It was full of old seasons. I still can't believe it's you, Grace murmured. Michael smiled. Me neither. You look like the kind of person people see on magazine covers. Of endurance. She teased. Is that praise or shade? Just enough to be unforgettable. He spoke with the calm of a report, each word touching the next with a faint tremor. After he was adopted, they moved him at once. Another state, another school. The new family wanted a clean slate. No contact, no trace. I wrote letters, a lot, but never sent them. I was afraid you'd forgotten. Grace laughed, a laugh with a waterline. I never did. They were quiet a while, then she looked at the 3 children drawing at the counter. They're my whole world. Michael nodded, eyes warm. I can see that. The kids came back to the kitchen with cheeks flushed from warmth. Uncle Michael stay for dinner? June asked. We have soup from a can. Heh, Joy said with pride. Jade added guilelessly, and toast that's only a little burnt. Grace tilted her head as if to rescue him from a poor meal. but he smiled. I'd love to. Dinner meant 2 bowls short, 5 people squeezed at a little wooden table, joy filling every gap. Michael ate slowly, as if memorizing scraps of small talk. Who preferred heavy or light snow, why the neighbor's treetop star was crooked, and how Mom always remembered to hug before lights out. The apartment was old. Peeling paint, rickety chairs, a small tree hung with paper ornaments, but the air held another kind of luxury. Belonging. At the door, Joy pressed a folded paper into his hand, corners wrinkled with nerves. He opened it, expecting a drawing, but found lines of uneven letters. If on Christmas Eve Mom has no one to hug, will you hug her for us? Michael swallowed a pause. Mom hugs us all the time, Joy explained, but sometimes she looks like she needs one too. He knelt to meet her eyes. I'll try if she says yes. When he looked up, Grace leaned in the doorway, her eyes bright with the thin water of someone strong for too long. Good night, Grace. Good night, Michael. Snow dotted his collar like gentle periods, and for the first time in years, he carried home something nameless. Perhaps hope. On Christmas Eve, the iron gate to a Brookline house swung open onto a road powdered with snow. Warm light from the porch spilled out, gentle and unshowy. Michael waited with hands in his pockets, shoulders dusted with flakes. The door opened before Grace could knock. 3 girls in pink coats bounded in, cheeks red and eyes wide. Grace's face held a touch of hesitation and a disbelief she hardly dared. You didn't have to do this, she said softly. Michael smiled. I know, I wanted to, for them. He nodded at the 3 pairs of eyes drifting up to the chandelier like a little sky. The house wasn't extravagantly decorated. Just fresh garlands, a few candles, and a modest tree hung with paper stars the girls had cut. Intent mattered more than wealth. Grace sensed it in the way he placed things. Upstairs, the room for her had ivory sheets, a small vase of flowers, and a shelf of old paperbacks. At the foot of the bed lay a faded quilt. Michael stood in the doorway. My foster mother's. She kept this room as it was when she died. I think it's time it held a living sleeper, not just memories. Grace said nothing. Her hand smoothed the quilt's edge, as if stroking the youth of another woman who had loved him. The table held 5 steaming bowls of white radish soup. Grace blinked. Michael shrugged. You used to cook it in the reading room. I tried to recreate it from memory, with a recipe off the back of an old magazine. She laughed. It smells better than back then. They ate in the clink of spoons and quiet carols. Afterward, they gathered by the fire. Michael chose the Snow Queen, reading slowly, his deep voice stretching the letters into warm breath. The girls leaned together, eyes drooping. Jade fought to stay awake the longest, whispering, You sound like a prince. Michael smiled. I'm not that noble. You are to Mom. She fell asleep. He carried them one by one to a small guest room with 3 little beds side by side, fairy lights like stars. When he came back down, Grace sat near the fire. No defenses now, only weariness and peace. You didn't have to do all this, she said softly. I wanted to, he answered. Not to atone. She frowned a little. Not to fix the past, he said, but to keep an old promise. The fire crackled. Snow fell thick outside the window. In that hush, something moved, very slowly, but in the right direction. That winter lasted longer than usual. People complained about ice on their steps, about the green line breathing slow. But at Grace's small apartment, each morning something waited at the door. A still warm country loaf wrapped in craft paper and twine. A pair of knit mittens from a forgetful elf instead of an apology. A slip of Anderson. The smallest light can warm the longest night. Michael came and went without noise. He replaced a squealing window latch, packed putty into a drafty scene. One snowy afternoon, he and the girls built a whole snow family. A father with Michael's childhood scarf, a mother in a tin pot hat, and 3 sisters in 3 pink beanies. June called it an outdoor library because he pinned a cardboard sign with a pine cone and the words, Come hear a story. Kids from the block drifted over. For the first time, laughter compounded on Grace's doorstep. From the window, arms folded, Grace watched. A heart trained to fend for itself felt unsteady before steady presence. Sometimes her hand almost brushed his shoulder as they set a pot of soup on the stove. Sometimes she laughed too loudly when he clumsily snapped a light string. Then she startled at the walls she'd erected. Who he was, who she wasn't. The distance wasn't just money. It was habit-worn heavy from carrying alone. One afternoon at a part-time cleaning shift in a used book warehouse, the damp floor was slick. Her foot slipped. The sound of skull meeting ground was dry and sharp. When she opened her eyes, the white of a hospital light flooded her. The smell of alcohol and the steady beat. And the face by the bed was his. His coat on the chair, eyes red with lack of sleep. His hand enclosing hers just firmly enough, as if afraid to hurt. He didn't speak. He stayed. "The girls?" she rasped. "Safe," he said. "My driver picked them up. A nurse is with them. I read the Velveteen Rabbit over the phone." A tear slid across her cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For needing someone." Silence measured by the monitor. Then she laid bare the deepest stash. "I'm afraid. I don't deserve to be happy." Michael didn't look it away. He smoothed the damp hair from her brow, leaned close. "Then let me believe for you. Until you can." "Why?" "Because you believed in me before I did." She turned her face and rested her cheek in his palm like touching the first soft thing after a long road. Outside, snow fell again, heavy, silent, forgiving. In the white room, another sheet of ice began to thaw. The idea came on a thin sun morning, the scent of mint tea gentle. Grace's wrists were still bandaged, resting against pillows. The girl sat in a tangle of blankets drawing princesses and dragons. Michael stood by the window over a sugar-dusted street, then turned, awkward as someone seeking permission for the first time. What if there were a place where stories are always waiting to be heard? A corner like our old library. Grace tilted her head. A little library? Community run. A few shelves, a warm nook, amber lamps, soft rugs. Someone to read to kids who feel forgotten. He added, almost a whisper, "I thought of you." She hesitated. "It's too kind, I can't accept it. I'm afraid it'll be a charity." "Or a favor you can't repay," he guessed. She nodded, embarrassed to let someone read her so cleanly. From the sofa, June popped up. "If Santa wants to give books to everyone and you say no, he'll be so sad." Joy hugged the blanket. "Books are hugs you get to keep." Jade concluded solemnly, "If someone hugs you, don't throw it away." Grace laughed, and her eyes grew wet. The children spoke for the adult heart. "I'm not fixing anything," Michael said. "I'm helping you build what you already carry." Grace nodded. "Then let's try." The little library opened in an empty storefront near Maple and Finch. Only 2 rooms, but warm and bright. Thick rugs, donated books in rows, hand-drawn stars and sparrows on the walls. Michael was there every day during renovations, sleeves rolled, painting, mounting shelves, sparring fiercely with an assembly manual. One afternoon, he and Grace spent hours painting the names June, Joy, Jade, and Matte Gold across the back wall over a tree with books for leaves. Beneath, in smaller letters, the storyteller's nest. "This," Michael dotted the last I and inhaled, "feels more important than any product launch I've done." Grace looked at him, hair loosely tied, a thin streak of pain on her cheek. They didn't speak. They stood close enough to hear each other's breath. On opening night, snow blanketed the block like terry cloth. The string lights at the door trembled in the wind. Inside, children curled on beanbags as Grace read. "And they lived happily." The last sentence fell like a quilt over the room. 3 familiar voices chimed from behind her. "Like us, right, Mom?" Grace pulled them into a hug, kissed their hair. "Like us." Families left slowly, adults clutching coats, kids glancing back at the hearth of books. Grace stepped outside, drawing her coat tight. The air was cold as a cup of clear water. Her breath lifted in a thin plume. In the snowy courtyard, a circle of lanterns had been lit, small flames flickering behind glass. In the center stood Michael, hair and shoulders touched with snow, eyes warm as fire. "What are you up to now, Mr. Reed?" She laughed, half curious, half uncertain. "Finishing a story we left dangling long ago." The girls hopped out behind her, stilled by the glow.
"Is it a game?"
Joy whispered. "No," Michael said, dropping to one knee, a knee sinking into snow. "It's a question." Grace froze. Her hands lifted to her mouth. From his coat, he drew a velvet box and opened a delicate ring. The inner band engraved with 4 names: Grace, June, Joy, Jade. "I used to think winter meant loneliness." His voice no longer a CEO's, just a man's truth. "But you and the girls make me want to walk into it, not away from it." Grace Ellis, you gave me hope when I didn't know what hope looked like. You read to me when the world was silent. You reminded me of myself. I don't want another Christmas or any day without you and the girls. "Is this the part where he kisses her?" Jade whispered, eyes huge. Grace laughed through tears. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Michael." He stood and slid the ring onto her hand. The girls rang like bells, clinging to his legs and shouting, "We really have a Santa now!" Michael knelt to hug all 3. Grace bent to wrap her arms over them, forming a small, warm circle amid snow and lanterns. On the roof, the falling snow sounded like the sky applauding. The days after weren't a fairy tale. They were real-life learning to be gentle. One stormy morning, the library had to close. The whole family made pancakes. June burned the first batch. Joy laughed till she hiccuped, and Jade secretly added extra cinnamon. So it smells like Christmas all year. At noon, Michael took a video meeting in the kitchen, headphones on, with 3 little moons popping into frame. His team dubbed it the cohesion effect. Grace still worked, still tired, but tired in a house where someone waited, where the key made a familiar click. Michael was still a sub-EO, still making decisions that fueled headlines. But at night, he read Anne of Green Gables in an intentionally solemn voice so the girls would burst out laughing. They learned to share chores. Who launders, who washes, who reads, who turns off lights. They learned to apologize quickly after snapping. On weekends, the storyteller's nest filled up with elderly neighbors who loved hearing old tales again, sitting quietly as if retrieving warmth. Grace set aside a special hour. Stories for the sleepless. She read slowly, low, as if conversing, so someone could pillow their head on words and drift. Older listeners smiled, saying her voice sounded like the old radio in their mother's kitchens. Winter passed slowly. They didn't hurry it away, because in the long evenings, each person had a place to rest their head, a shoulder to tell small things. Today, I dropped the same screw 3 times. Today, I salted the cocoa by mistake. When the press snapped Michael carrying a little girl at the nest, the clumsy caption, "Cold CEO can, in fact, read stories," made the city talk about ordinary kindness, the thing Boston had long been famed for in winter. People sharing warmth. On New Year's Eve, crowds counted down at Copley. At the storyteller's nest, the lights were dim, leaving only a strand hugging the shelves. Michael leaned against the wall. The 3 girls lay like 3 kittens in the cream blanket embroidered with their names. Grace rested her head on his shoulder, fingers loosely entwined. "I think we kept the promise," he said softly. "Which promise?" "That every winter someone will read to someone else." She smiled, eyes closed, "and read our lives back to each other." Outside, snow fell just enough to turn the street white by morning. Inside, the clock ticked gently. No one said happily ever after. They simply breathed long and even, like a story that had found its rhythm. The walls, once cold, now held children's drawings. The old chairs now heard giggles. On a shelf corner, the Snow Queen sat honorably, its spine frayed from being opened too often. Beside it lay a contribution notebook where grown-ups wrote fragments. When I was little, my mother read. Winter of '78, my father took me to. Public yet intimate shards that turned the room into a patchwork quilt sewn from stories. Michael kissed Grace's hair. Not a movie ending, but an ordinary breath between 2 living people. On the small board by the door, a chalk-lined Jade wrote in a slanting hand read, "Winter isn't cold if there's a story to hear. Script completed."